All right, in this episode of The Man Cave, I'm going to be kicking off a series of videos about working on my Suzuki DRZ400SM. Now, these supermoto bikes from Suzuki are absolutely fantastic. They are totally bomb-proof, but they do require tender, loving care. And the unit I have has seen years of neglect, and it's about time for a refresh. I'm going to be primarily working on the front end. I'm going to drop the forks, drain out the old fork oil, service those fork seals, get them changed out. While we're there, we might as well replace the steering head bearings, move towards the rear of the bike, and replace some worn out parts towards the swing arm. I might do a rear brake service as well so you guys can see how that is done. Now, to start with, I want to show you guys how to service your forks. These are upside down forks on the DRZ400SM. They're quite simple, but usually people are a little wary about working on forks because they don't quite know what's inside them. Well, we'll demystify that by taking the forks apart. Now, before we drop those forks, it's best if you actually loosen all the pinch bolts, all the axle bolts, all your brake caliper bolts, and the top caps as well of the forks, so that you don't need to struggle when the bike is up on a stand. Once those bolts are actually loosened, then you need to figure out how to get your front wheel lofted and off the ground. I used a car jack and a couple of jack stands. If you're strong enough, you can heft the whole bike onto a sturdy stool or a proper dirt bike stand. Now, once the bike is up on a stand and is stable, you can actually completely remove or loosen those bolts, remove your front wheel, drop those forks, and get them ready for service. Now, I did all of that ahead of time, and I have the forks freed and in the garage and ready for service. So let's get out there so I can show you how to service the upside down fork units of a DRZ400SM. All right, here we are outside in the garage. The forks have been removed from the bike. The bike is up on a stand, and as you can see, these forks have seen better days. The anodizing has sort of been eaten off here from exposure to the elements. The fork seals are not looking too good. And generally the fork's just in bad condition, so it's about time that we perform a service. Now, it's a pretty simple job. Put down some paper because it does get messy. We need a few basic tools. You will get by without the specialized tools, but it's always nice to have a fork cap wrench, slotted grip for the Showa fork. We've also got a little piece of metal with a slot cut into it. I'll show you what that's for, but basically you need that, a few screwdrivers, and an impact wrench is quite invaluable. It makes the job a whole lot easier. We'll start by removing the top cap from your fork legs. Make sure that you back off all your adjusters and take them all the way back out. There's compression and rebound, which you need to sort of click out. Now, if you want to return back to your original settings, obviously count out how many clicks and take that number down so that you don't forget. So we'll start by removing the top cap. Now, all of this has been pre-loosened, so it's not going to be difficult to remove. Right, we can drop our fork leg. Now, we've got a lot of oil in there that we need to drain out. So that's the old fork oil. It's usually a lot clearer than this. The oil that's coming out is quite dark. So obviously this oil hasn't been changed in quite a while. So this all needs to drain out. All right, that's most of the oil out of there. Now we need to hit the bottom. That's a 21 in there. We're going to hit it with the impact. Okay, now this is where this slotted piece of metal comes in. A slotted piece to hold down fork leg. All right, there you go, just something like this. Now there is a jam nut and Then you can start removing this 21. So I think it's a 17. Yep, 17. And our 21. Okay, pull that off. We've got a adjuster rod in here. We can now pull off this piece of metal. Let's move on to our slotted Showa slot. Got a spring. We've got the spacer, and there is a spring seat or a spacer seat with, you have to pay particular attention to the way the orientation is. It goes, there's a bit of a ledge on the bottom here, and that's what goes towards the top. All right. We can pull this off. Bit of oil. Bit of oil there, that's an important part. And now we can bleed this damper rod of the oil that's in there. Make sure you point it at your container. We've got a little dust cap. All right, once you go to a larger screwdriver. All right, that's your dust cap. Inside here is a little clip. All right, now you want to be careful with this. All right, you don't want to scratch that because that needs to be smooth. Your actual fork seal is in there, and now we'll separate the fork tube by just slide hammering. All right. So here we are. We've got your inner bushing, outer bushing, bit of a spacer, a fork seal, the clip, and your dust cover. So all of that can come off, starting off with your bushing. All right. Your outer bushing. Washer. You've got your main fork seal. You've got a clip. And you've got the dust seal. All right, that is the basic disassembly of an upside down Showa unit from a DRZ400SM. It's pretty simple. It's no great mystery what's in there. Just pay attention to which parts came out of where. Maybe bag those parts for each fork leg so you don't mix them up, and take lots of pictures along the way so that you remember what goes where during reassembly. Now this fork is in pretty bad shape. You saw the state of that fork oil. It was pretty disgusting. So I'm going to get some new fork oil, some new fork seals. I'm going to work on these fork legs. The anodizing is all gone. I'm going to sand these down. polish and buff them, get them nice and pretty again. And when we have everything nice and clean and ready to go, I'll show you guys how to put this all back together again. That's in the next episode of The Man Cave.